Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And we are, believe it or not, day 6 of our second 9-day intensive here in Palm Coast. It's been busy and it's been awesome. Today is Memorial Day celebration 326. Michael will talk a little more about that here in a moment. Our call-in number, we'd love to hear from you, is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to Michael. And welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you, sweetie, and everyone who's here to join us for this awesome privilege of learning and teaching forgiveness on a planet-wide scale. We send our appreciation to Carol for creating the space for us to do this show. And here we are. We're about 1.25 years into the show, hundreds of shows in the archives. If you want to listen, there's such a wide variety of topics. You just need to go to our website, www.whyagain.com, and just click on the link for the show, and it will take you into the archives. Jeannie's organized them by month with topics on most of them, and they're just all kinds of expression of the tools and process and working with people that you can get a real sense of. And you can even train yourself just by listening to these shows and how to work with these tools and process with people. And we're here to empower every mind, heart, and being on the planet to do what humans do, and that is function as the active presence of love. One of our commitments is to create a world where human life governs, where human life rules, where human life functions through every human form on the planet as it was designed to. And that means that we're going to eradicate war. That means that this game of I deny responsibility for my pain, I find somebody to blame, and then I have to puke on them. I have to make war on them, whether I do it verbally, emotionally, physically, with a gun, a bomb, or a bullet, doesn't matter. It's all war. It's all the energy that produces war, and it all comes from inside of us. So what we're inviting everybody to do is to be willing to go inside yourself, to be responsible for what's going on inside of you, and to process through whatever's less than love in you. And by doing so, one of the lines in the Lord's Prayer in the ancient Aramaic translates properly from Aramaic, carve out a space in us for your wholeness, that we as whole human beings, our wholeness that has always remained intact, shows up in this world. And as it shows up in this world, we become the leavening that leavens the whole loaf, that we change the game on planet Earth from non-human life, from hostility and fear and grief and pain and loss and suffering, into human life, the active presence of love. You don't have to wait to go off into space somewhere for that to happen. It can happen here and now. And that's what the ancient teachers came to bring us, with the tools for making it happen here and now. Those who are profiting from it not happening here and now discarded the tools, took over the tools, and turned it into something it was not, turned it into something based in hostility or fear. So we're here to dump the hostility, the fear, the threats, the insanity, and simply embody human life, and to support you in doing it. The core tool we teach, we've got about 40 identified tools. The core tool we teach is that of forgiveness, and not what the culture calls forgiveness. The culture says, the essential message of the culture around forgiveness is, you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay. I'll let you off the hook. I'll forgive you. Folks, when you understand forgiveness, you will never forgive anyone ever again. You will never forgive yourself ever again. Stop forgiving others. Stop forgiving yourself. If you choose to pardon somebody, let somebody or yourself off the hook, great. That's a nice thing to do. And that's what the world calls forgiveness. That is not forgiveness. So pardon as you will, and then if you've chosen to pardon, then take the next step and delve into forgiveness work, which means you delve into the inside where you hold the restrictions against your human life showing up. You forgive those restrictions. You delete them. You remove them. Whoever told you in all your years on this planet that forgiveness was about deleting content from your mind, from your body, from your emotions? That's what real forgiveness is. So let's get about our Father's business. Let's start forgiving. Let's dump this garbage that's been called the human life, this hostility, this fear, this suffering, this pain. Let's dump it. Let's join each other in dumping it and manifesting human life. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to support you in. And if you have a question or a thought or an idea or an experience to share, we would love to hear your sweet voice. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Call us with your question. Call us with your comment. Jeannie, do we have any callers? Is Dr. Tim with us today? We've missed him for several days.
I know. He hasn't been with us. No, he's not on today. David is, though. He's over there with other attendees. And we do have a call when you're ready for it.
Cool. Well, we'll have to give Dr. Tim a call, make sure everything's okay, because I don't think we've ever missed him this many days in a row before. So we'll have to check with him and make sure he's doing okay. But otherwise, David, how do you be, sir? I know that you have been going through a healing crisis the last couple of days. You're doing some cleansing. It's awesome, and it's absolutely a blessing and delight to have you here supporting the healing, the opening that's happening here, and your input to the whole process. Do you have anything to share with us, David?
Oh, you're right when you say that I'm in a healing crisis, and to me it's kind of like life. I'm either evolving or I'm dissolving, and going that law of entropy and ectopy. And right now, I'm in that healing space, and it's doing it physical, and I see that it has the association with being around such a quality of group of people and their level of willingness and vitality, then it's the field just to be in that environment brings up mine, and so it's really nice to be able to be supported in that way of an unconscious level, just in being around the people. So I expect that I am moving through yet another layer, whatever that is, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to bring, see what new insights that it's going to be. And I think it's just wonderful that with the group that was here prior, and all of the groups, it's difficult for me to just talk about one group, and it seems like that, wow, this group here is really, really great. And the last group was really great, and the ones at Heartland. And my sense of it is that there seems to be more and more people that are taking on higher responsibility, or maybe rather than a higher responsibility, just to take on responsibility for their own life. And that's quite a challenge, and it takes a real commitment. And the group that's here is really committed to doing the work, as you know, being here, connected with them. Today was a wonderful process with Mark and everyone. It's very good.
Well, it's interesting, as you've seen over the years being at Heartland and all the years I've been doing intensives, when we have a group come in, and we do, for those who may not know about our intensives, one of the things we do is a personal code evaluation. And the personal code evaluation looks at the areas where there are holes in people's perception. And usually in an intensive, I'll have maybe 2, maybe 3 people where I'll be able to say, wow, whatever you've been doing, it's been effective. We don't see many people who come to an intensive first time around that have scores like your scores. And there might be 2, perhaps 3 in a group of 30 or 40. And last week, I think we had about 6 people who I was able to say, obviously you've been working and your work has been being effective. Congratulations. And so that group built a space. We did a 9-day intensive that started back on April 6th. And just some monumental breakthroughs in that workshop. And then, to me, it's like it's all part of this thing that we're hitting critical mass, that we're hitting the place of the leavening that leavens the whole loaf. And it looks like 2012 perhaps is the year. And we, in this particular workshop of 17 people on the property, I think probably 9 or 10 people, I could say, for your first intensive, your scores are awesome. Whatever you're doing has been working. And that's just so cool. And to me, it's like just part of the fact that we are very close to and getting to critical mass, and that means major breakthroughs on the planet. So it's cool to have everybody be a part of it. Jeannie, we do have a caller. Let's hear from our caller. Mute button.
Mute off.
Yeah.
We'll all get the hang of that one of these days. Area code 970. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hey, Michael and Jeannie. It's Carrie in Colorado.
Hi, Carrie.
Well, we haven't heard from you for a few days yet, young lady.
What was that?
I say we haven't heard from you for several days.
I know. I loved the introduction that you made at the beginning of the show, and I just was inspired to call in because just to say how excited I am that, when you first start sharing this work with people, it like you say, we don't always have the brain cells at the beginning because for 2,000 years we've been listening to something different. We've been conditioned with something different. And
right.
But now a few people in my inner circle, including the former wife of a guy that I was in a intimate relationship with for 6 years, she and her husband are just so excited about this work, and I've shared a couple of the videos with them that I got, and I had actually downloaded the radio show archives probably about 6 months worth onto flash drives, and I had sent them one, and I'd sent one to each of their kids, and now they're listening to the radio shows, and they're taking notes on everything, and they're asking me how to order green powder and to get their body frequency up, although they're on a pretty healthy diet already. But it's just so exciting to see, it just takes keeping on explaining it to people. I just want to encourage anybody in your listening audience who hears this now or later that, sometimes when you explain it to people for the first time, they don't necessarily get it. But then if you just are willing to stick with it and just keep coming back, I've said to people over and over that people ask you a question, and you just always come back to center. And that has been such a good model for me. And people start coming up with confusing thought, and I just say, well, this is what really works. And I want to say thank you for that model because it's been very helpful to me in sharing it with other people. And now I'm starting to see this, I'm starting to see things percolate, and it is so much fun. In fact, I was actually telling another old friend in Pagosa about this work, and a mutual friend of ours named John called in to talk to her right at the same time as I was telling her about it. And I just sent her my iPod with all my radio shows on it because I've kind of listened to them enough times. I'm now kind of on to the next step. But I just wanted to say how exciting it is when you just really stick with it and keep coming back to center and with people and sharing it, and then they start to grasp it. And my former partner's oldest daughter and her husband and 3-year-old child came and visited me this weekend for the weekend. We went to the zoo, but we talked and talked and talked all weekend, and much of it was about this work. And it's now kind of, even though she's just in the early stages of understanding it, she started grasping it a little bit more. And, oh, man, it's just so exciting to see that happen. Like you said, maybe we're on a wave here where there's really going to be a big shift. I know there will be a big shift taking place, but I think as
building the brain cells,
the 100th monkey, as some people get it, then others are going to get it more easily.
Building the brain cells is definitely key in the whole process.
Oh,
sure.
It is so exciting. And well, a question I have had, I've been dealing with tiredness, and definitely have had a lot of old, material processing because of all of the interactions with different people, and have sat up doing worksheets on it. But I just thought I'd ask you, get a little input on tiredness, because it seems like I hit that occasionally, and it sort of gets to be my mantra, and I realize it's not a good mantra,
Well, first of all, let me just introduce you. This is Terry Ellis, who has a book out there called Super Immunity Secrets, which, by the way, if you could do some tracking, we still haven't seen that case of books. And I would love to have it here. I would love to have it here before the intensive's over so these folks can have a chance to take it home with them.
Let me contact. Yeah, I'll follow up.
We can talk about that later, but I just wanted to put that out there. And CarrieEllis.com is where you can order Super Immunity Secrets from her. Now, you can do it on Amazon too, but I assume you do a little better if they order from you directly. And I really appreciate and acknowledge you putting the tools out there to people. And, of course, as you put it out there, you move into process. And process, when you think about the energetic structures that it takes to build a whole physiological device with what we call, an ankle bone and a toe and a liver and a lung and a heart and a brain, they're huge energetic systems with great complexity in them. And they are also our mind, our what we call carbon-based memory, or the body's mind. And so they store frequencies. And when you take an energetic structure, for instance, that, let's say, one of the things that seems to reside in and break down the pancreas leads a lot of people to hyper or hypoglycemia and ultimately diabetes. The energy that's stored there is grief. So if, let's say, I come from a family system, let's say old Europe or old Middle East, where people have been at war forever. I mean, this army came through and that army came through and the next army came through, and then my children became part of an army that went through somewhere else and got slaughtered, and on and on and on and on and on. The structure, the energetic structure locked into the pancreas, it causes it to start to dysfunction, is huge, and it's been going on for thousands of lives in my bloodline. And if I'm the first one in my bloodline, if you think about where your family system came from, where my family system came from, my father was raised on the streets of Glasgow. If you've seen the movie The Gangs of New York, I think you get a sense of, for instance, for me, what my father's life was like, and his father and his father. And I know you've shared a little bit about yours. So if you think about how much grief do you suppose and loss is in just that one organ, the pancreas. And Do you suppose my father, my mother, your father, your mother, their parents before them, or theirs before them, or theirs before them, or theirs before them, had any idea that they could go in and remove those energies, forgive them? Not likely. So, if you and I are the first ones in the bloodline that have comprehended that that was possible and then actually went ahead and started to do it, we're taking away huge energetic processes from each organ, cracking it, breaking it down, accessing that content, getting in touch with that content, and removing it. That's like a huge energy drain. It takes a quanta of energy to break those things down, and then to rebuild is like another whole huge energetic process. So what are the symptoms of healing? Well, first one is low energy. Because if you're the first one in the bloodline, if I'm the first one in the bloodline that conceived of, instead of just adding more garbage to the genetic structure, more memories of pain and trauma, if I'm the first one who went, oh, I could go in, access and decode this trauma and remove it, yeah, your organic structure is going to go through the low energy process of breaking up those structures and rebuilding them. It's part of the process of healing. And
that is a great
willingness to go through that, that's just like one small aspect of the healing process, but it's major when you recognize that we are perhaps the first generation that's been able to have a conversation about breaking down our genetics, maybe the first in thousands of years. What do you suppose in the Middle East? I know your family comes from the Middle East, and mine comes from, I think, ultimately from the Middle East and via Scotland. What do you suppose in the Dark Ages your family system and my family system were going through?
Oh, yeah.
And
Torture
had
and
no
war.
clue that it could be liberated.
Yeah.
So,
my mom, who's not Lebanese, but she's half Jewish. She has narcolepsy, and that's gotten handed down to several grandkids. And and that's just falling asleep all the time because I think we can't endure, what's in there.
Yeah, narcolepsy is just, I go unconscious. I can't process this. I can't deal with what this situation resonates in me, so I check out totally, like, instantly. Most people, it's more of a, it's kind of like a cycle of, okay, I go down into unconsciousness, but when it's too heavy, it's just like, I'm checking out right here, right now, clunk, I'm asleep. And as you process that, that's like the extreme of the fatigue that you're talking about, and you're processing through all of that. And, it's not something that's done in a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. It's a long-term process.
Well, I like affirming that the universe is abundant with energy and that I can shift molecularly enough to begin, to clear and begin accessing that too. So
yes,
that's a great point.
And of course, as you and I know that we can eat, like one of the things we're doing in intensive, I've actually got a plate in front of me with these gorgeous red peppers, a carrot, pineapple salad, a loaf that's just awesome, total fresh and raw, absolutely fabulous, and this Caesar salad that I think Caesar would have chosen to live for if he'd tasted this Caesar recipe that we have. So, that we're eating food that actually brings life and vitality into the process is pretty awesome too. And that part of our intensive is all that totally fresh and raw, live and raw food that still has its enzymes intact and is just supportive of that whole energetic process, as opposed to eating dead, decaying flesh that people go, oh, man, I get my energy from this dead, decaying flesh. It's like, really? Okay, well, I can You know, if you think about it, what do you suppose death produces in the structure? Well, probably more death. What do you suppose life produces in the structure? I'll never forget my first live food meal. It was totally live, sprouts and all of that. And I can remember the feeling of this heat going through my whole structure. I mean, I could feel it literally moving to different parts of my structure and heating up. And that's what life does. It creates life in your structure instead of taking in this dead, decaying flesh of animals and tortured, especially tortured animals, you know, that have been just through horrendous things to get served up on the plate here in this culture. It's just, you know, it's such a privilege to be aware of and to be doing all that we're doing and doing it literally for all the generations. Pretty cool.
That's awesome, Michael. Yeah, thanks for all the thoughts. Very much agreed on the living foods and creating living cells in the body. And well, thanks for the good thoughts and directionally help opening me up to deeper levels of healing and clearing and life. And you guys continue on with your journey and be blessed. And in the next half hour, I'll go check on those books. I know they were shipped on the 29th, so there must have been something that happened. I wish I would have realized sooner, but we'll get it taken care of.
Yeah, if you could follow up and find out where they are. We finish here on Sunday. It'd be really nice to have us in our hands because we've got people here from all over the country. They'll be taking them back to different parts of the country to support their families, and so that would be awesome.
I'll check on that. All right.
All right. Appreciate you. Hold you in a blessing, Carrie. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So that's Carrie Ellis, the author of Super Immunity Secrets. Pretty cool book for strengthening your immune system, which in this time of such decay in the food supply and you look at how many places in the culture, if you go in to buy food, and we suggest you talk to your grocer about it, because where you go in and the only food you can buy is from countries where they still defecate in the field and still spray DDT, we invite you to start quizzing your food supplier, whether it's the big grocery store or the small grocery store. Why are you putting American farmers out of business for a few pennies profit? You know, I mean, we are literally the same way that we're killing people for oil right now, and you know, it's pretty clear the whole weapons of mass destruction, the whole game was all just a charade to steal oil. I mean, there's just not much question about it. You know, if you look at the administration, they had this the Taliban here whining and dining and offering them millions of dollars to put a pipeline through Afghanistan, and all of a sudden, now notice there was nobody on that plane who was from Afghanistan, but it's Afghanistan that we go and bomb in the Middle Ages. But isn't it interesting? Go check the history. You'll notice that the pipeline that the Taliban said, no, you're not bringing it through our land, is now in place. Think about that. Take a look. Let's get conscious about our human lives. Let's function as human beings. Let's go back to recognizing that we're all cells in one body. I love what Einstein says. He says, if you think that we are separate or separated from the rest of humanity, we're living in an optical delusion. Let's get back to the truth of who we are and start to function as human beings. And as we do, we change the dynamic of everything that's happening on the planet. And we start to treat each other like human beings. We start to treat ourselves like human beings. And that's the whole idea of this work. And that's what we're here to share with you. And, of course, the key in the forgiveness process is to remove everything from the generations that keeps us out of our awesome human presence. And the way we define a human life is really easy with this work. Just go hold a newborn child. You know exactly what human life is. My offering to you is that nothing unlike that newborn child belongs in your physiology, your family system, your mouth, your words, your thoughts, your feelings, or your culture. Nothing unlike that awesome presence of love belongs in you. So let's get off our duffs and let's start to remove that stuff. Nobody ever told you till you ran into this work that forgiveness is about deleting content from your genetics, from your bloodline, from your physiology. We're here to tell you that's what it means. It's got nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook. Let's get about our Father's business. Let's get about this active presence of love we were designed to be. Let's live it, and let's move forward as we are designed to. Jeannie, do we have anything happening in the chat room, or do we have any other callers?
No, we don't have anybody else with their hand up. 646-200-4169 and press 1 to talk is the 815 number that's on the switchboard. Tim, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Welcome back. Just talking about you at the beginning of the show that we hadn't seen you for days, and we were concerned. We were going to call and make sure you were all right.
I'm doing well. Yesterday I was at the top of the Aon Center, 80 floors up in Chicago, giving a talk about post-traumatic stress and non-medical, non-invasive techniques for helping people with post-traumatic stress. And I was on a discussion panel with a retired colonel from the Army who's used some of the techniques to her benefit, and she invited me to be on this panel, and so that ate up a big chunk of yesterday, and things have just been really busy and hopping. And
awesome.
Tuesday night we had our group, and we showed the movie I Am. We had a rather intimate group of people who've been through all of the Michael Ryce videos before, so instead of going into Healing Through Relationship, which will start on Tuesday this next week, we showed the movie I Am, to much delight from the members. And
very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one of those that for someone like me, I can watch it several times, just like one of your videos. And I've seen it before, and I enjoyed watching it again. The big section on heart math really hit me differently this time, and so it was very, very nice. And then there was a lot of discussion. People were picking up where they left off from last week's the worksheet process that had been powerful for some people, and other people who had just been listening to her do the worksheet process last week chimed in this week about what it had stirred up for them. So we got to see more of that, the sharing of the energy and the ripple effect and the amplifying of the energy of love and the willingness to look at what's really got us stuck in the space of 5 or 6 or 8 other people who are willing to just hold the space of love for you. It was very powerful. Very nice.
Very cool. That's fabulous. Have you seen the film Thrive yet?
Thrive?
Thrive.
THRIVE? Nope, that's a new one to my radar.
Okay, that one's next. That one's going to knock your socks off.
Is that an older one or a new one?
No, it's just been around for a little while. It's one of the shots in the movie is a picture of this guy who produces it as a young man with, if I remember correctly, it was Clinton, and he was groomed to be in the power structure of the game and said, "Thanks, I'll pass." And he speaks about how human life is designed to thrive naturally, and when these power structures take over, it inhibits the ability to thrive, and he details so much. I mean, it takes aspects of I Am and blows it out into, folks, here's what you've been blocking all your life. Here's what your educational process trained you to block and be unconscious of. Let's start to get conscious and let's clean it up. It's really powerful.
All right.
And I think the website is thrivemovement.com.
Yeah,
I think you can watch it. Yeah, I think you can watch it free online. It's pretty powerful.
Well, I will do exactly that. Thank you for the tip.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, it's good to hear your voice. We're glad that all is well in your world and that you're out there impacting the world with these tools. We have just it's like our intensive. Last week, what happened in the 9 days was just like huge movement, and so many things being moved and processed. It was just awesome, and then that intensive created space for this one that's just like, boom, going through the roof. So it's pretty cool, pretty powerful process, and pretty exciting.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you were talking about with the increased percentage of people who are coming to the intensive, clearly already having done their work, that what we're seeing is happening more and more, that people are getting it, people are being exposed to it, and they're getting it more quickly once they're being exposed to it, and more people are being exposed to it. So,
right, and it's like it's to me one of the things that comes to mind when I think about it is the people who you don't have to be sick to get better. And people who are already doing well in the world, relationship, financially, etc., are stepping in and saying, okay, I'm ready to take my life to the next level. And the people who've been, kind of hanging out in a lot of drama and trauma are participating, and they're just getting this boost, this uplift. I mean, and the processing that's happening with everybody in the group is just, it's monumental. It's awesome. So cool, and we've got this absolutely fabulous location. I mean, we go out, sit on the dock, and just kind of get the scene. Here's a dock on the Intercoastal. The Intercoastal's about maybe 75 feet wide here. Pretty common to see manatees coming up along the dock, dolphins out in the waterway. So we go out of the front door of the house and walk out onto the dock and sit on the dock and turn back. And what you're looking at is this big, beautiful house, and surrounded by these, I think they're pin oaks or live oak trees with all this Spanish moss hanging down. And, I mean, it's just like, it's like from a movie set. It's kind of like, now the house isn't quite the Gone with the Wind type of setting, but it's almost like that kind of a setting, right on the water. Right next door to us is the house of the owners of the property who've got a dock. And we're at the end of this laneway. It's almost like totally, completely private. It's just, the space is fabulous that we're doing this in. And the beauty, of course, enhances the whole process. And we have had, they're calling, it's a little cloudy today, and they're calling for possible thunder showers the next couple of days, which is kind of on track because we're going to be probably doing still point before the day is over tomorrow. And usually when we're doing still point, that's when the clouds come in and there's a good flush and a good wash. But the environment is so beautiful. And our weather, I mean, we've had from 70, I don't think it's gone below 70 degrees. Maybe at night it's been down in the mid-60s, and then up into, about 80s, probably been the high, maybe a few degrees more than that. So the weather has just been so beautiful. It's amazing. And we have a short walk, and we're on the ocean, on the Atlantic, and then, right out the front door is the Intercoastal Waterway. So it's just a fabulous space, and we are appreciative of everything that we've been given to get to do this work and to take it forward. And, of course, we'll be finishing up here on Sunday, and then David and Jeannie and I are taking a little vacation and some writing and organizational time in Orlando, and the folks that are working on revamping our website and doing some technical upgrades to it and some visual upgrades. We're going to go spend a few days with them when we're finished in Orlando, and then we'll be heading to Jacksonville, where we'll start. If anybody's in the Jacksonville, Florida area, or you're anywhere in the country and you want to come to Jacksonville, we'll be starting there on the first Sunday of May, and we'll be doing 7 days of straight workshops. We'll be doing their Sunday service, actually 2 services, Sunday morning And then Sunday afternoon we'll be doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, all free workshops. Saturday we'll be doing the one workshop that we do charge a fee for, Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. We'll complete there. And then we actually head to Fort Lauderdale, and we've got 2 weeks set aside to do some writing and some more organizational work. Jeannie's finishing off and doing some schoolwork. And I offer you my admiration, Jeannie, and my applause and my accolades for everything that you have, just opened your heart to embrace, including me, and to be in charge of. She's been in charge of the food, and the food has been awesome here. And along with that, she's doing schoolwork. She just got her marks back for her latest class in school, for which she had 100, and then was complaining about how, her earlier grades, this is the first 100 she's got. Her others are only 98 and 99. So anyway, but just my warmth and appreciation for you and your genius and your presence and everything that you bring to everything that's happening with this work. It's so powerful. Here. The food has been awesome.
I want to echo all of those compliments and gratitude for Jeannie and the website and the support. Few people understand how much she does and how much it's benefiting this radio show and your life and the intensives. And so thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you all.
And Jeannie, thank you for saying thank you. I can remember a time where you said, "Oh, no, not me. Oh, no," rather than just opening yourself to being appreciated. So I appreciate you also working through that love of self issue to be able to embrace that and receive that appreciation. So, and you are appreciated. So, Tim, is there anything else to share from that last time we talked to you? Like, it seems like years ago. I think it was maybe 4 days ago. But it seems like so long. It's like there's so much happening in the intensive and in the radio show. It's like, gee, when was the last time we heard from Tim?
Well, it's been a while because I've had a lot of busyness, a lot of events going on here. So I don't remember what you were referring to, but we did. We've had lots of people getting real good worksheet shifts and then powerful discussions about how the worksheet process is then changing the way they experience all of their other family and relationships. I just had another gentleman yesterday talk about how he had a visit with his sister-in-law, and this is a 20-some-year relationship with his sister-in-law, and 20-some years of the relationship has been highly competitive and adversarial. And he reported yesterday that he went for a visit over the previous weekend and sat down, and for the better part of an hour, he and her alone, which is a novel thing. The two of them would be off alone talking. And he said they connected in a way that they haven't in their entire relationship, knowing each other. So he was just shocked that could happen, and he was, tearing up talking about it. And of course, he's looking for what made her change so much. So we had a good chuckle about that, and but we hear those kinds of things on a regular basis. And if you apply the work to yourself, then so many people are out there trying to change the world, and the great knowledge is if I can change who's looking at the world, then the world changes.
Yeah, and isn't it awesome every time you can facilitate human life showing up in somebody's body, and then what they report back as they go about living their lives as humans and how the others around them change. It's so cool, isn't it?
Yes, it is priceless. It's absolutely priceless. And the power of being able to be around people when they decide to get healthy and loving is just amazing. And often they'll want to give me the credit, and I keep trying to tell them, listen, if you had any idea how many different people I've said exactly the same things to and presented exactly the same tools to, who have walked out of here thinking I was crazy and they'll never see me again, and that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's completely wrong, or that could never work, then you would have some understanding of how you've really done all of this for yourself in your own life. Nobody else can fix you or heal you. And
yep, that's it.
And when people are willing to do the work, they get the results, and they deserve the credit. They really,
absolutely,
really deserve the credit.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Jeannie tells me that we have a caller, so let's see what our caller's got to say.
And actually, we did have a caller, and they've been disconnected. So if you'd call back in, you're next on. It was area code 517. But in the meantime, we have a question in the chat room, and that is, this is from Sarah, and she says she listened to the show the other day, and you made the statement that anything in your being that is not like love is a lie, and it's removable. And she wants to know, could you please expound on that?
Sure. Anything in your field that's unlike love is a lie, and it's removable. There you go. How's that? Does that get it, Sarah?
I don't think so.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, you're a human being. A human being hold a newborn child, and that's who you are. Anything that comes into your awareness through your physiology that has any form of hostility or fear attached, any picture, any image, any thought, any feeling that comes through with hostility or fear attached is literally coming from corrupt data in you. Not the other guy, in you. So if let's say I have a part of me that holds grief and sadness, and Sarah comes forward into my life, and she's in great pain about something, and she expresses her great pain, and that pain happens to be in resonance with my grief and sadness, then my physiology, resonated by what you've said and what you're going through, brings forward something of grief and sadness in me. That grief and sadness in me, as the pain and loss in you, is an indicator that your mind is using corrupt data to build the world you see, and my mind is using your corrupt data to build the world you see, and my mind is using corrupt data to build the world I see. Now, if we conspire, and the word conspire means breathe together, if we conspire on our pain, you and I can make it up that, of course, your pain has nothing to do with you and my pain has nothing to do with me. It's all about that person that did it to us. And we can lie to ourselves. We can pretend that my pain has nothing to do with me, your pain has nothing to do with you. We'll agree, and we'll both point the finger at them. And we will be lying to ourselves. Now, when someone brings forward the truth, Sarah, your pain and loss is something inside of you that belongs to you and is resolvable inside of you. And somebody says to me, Michael, your pain and loss is something that's inside of you and is resolvable in you. I will, if I'm living in the standard world, I will protest and say, no, it's all about them. And I'll say, isn't that right, Sarah? I'll turn to you and you'll go, yes, it's all about them. And you and I will be joined in a lie, blaming somebody else for our pain. There's an indicator that God gave us that tells us when we're in error. And the indicator is any form of hostility or fear. So if you or I decide to say, well, you know, as I heard that guy Ryce on the radio the other day say, if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, maybe you want to look inside yourself and recognize you're the only one that was there every time. But I do that and I say, geez, you know, I have been through this so many times, and I've always had somebody else to blame every time, but I'm the only one that was there every time. Maybe let me just entertain the thought for a minute instead of my belief that, no, it's about them. Let me just take a minute and entertain the thought. What would it be like if I owned and admitted that this is about me, this is my pain, and maybe it's something I could break down? Then what the forgiveness process would enable me or empower me to do would be to crack open or to collapse the projection that it's about somebody else and crack open the dissociated mind so that I can come back in touch with the most terrible thing in the world, that deep pain that's inside of me. And as I contact that directly, and if I have practiced bringing love present into my mind and body, by bringing love present to that pain that's so deep in me, I'll begin the dissolution of that pain. I'm dissolving my lie. I'm dissolving the corrupt data out of which my mind builds the pictures that it sees, and I get to heal. And then all of a sudden, without them changing one iota, because I'm using totally different data to build my brain's image of them, I get to experience a whole different world, a whole different reality, and magic of magics, they change. And I'm at peace because I've removed my corrupt data. Does that make sense? That's what forgiveness is about. The world teaches us forgiveness is about letting somebody else off the hook for what's happening inside of us. Forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with that. That's a total falsehood. Forgiveness is the tool that I go inside myself and remove my own corrupt data. How do I know if I have corrupt data in me? I'm in some form of hostility or fear over what appears to be an event on the outside. I am truly in hostility or fear because in me is hostility or fear. And I hallucinate people to blame it on. The whole blame game has got to go. We've got to grow into adulthood as a species and stop. You know, there's an interesting passage, if I remember correctly, it's in the book of Thomas, one of the books that didn't make it into the scriptures. And you hear Yeshua, and he says to the disciples, you're like a bunch of little kids running around in the square, pointing the finger at each other. Nah, 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 look what you did to me. Most so-called adults are still little kids running around like 3-year-olds. Nah, 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 look what you did to me. It's all your fault that I'm in pain. Why don't you stop doing that to me? When I actually grow into adulthood, I'm going to open my throat. I'm going to open my face. I'm going to stop being a complainer and a blamer, and I'm going to go, wow, I've been through this 87 different times. There have been 42 different people I've blamed it on, but I was there every time. Maybe it's time for me to crack open my own dissociated state and heal myself. When that strikes you, you will enter into the true process of forgiveness. You'll never blame anybody else again for anything. If you're in pain or turmoil, instead of a conversation about them, which is how you enter into denial, you'll start to talk about yourself, and you'll break down your very capacity for any form of pain. So that's what we're here to do, and if we need any other refinements or conversation about that, give me your feedback, and in the meantime, Jeannie tells me we've got a caller.
And first I'd like to add, we had a perfect example of that this morning. One of the young ladies that's in the intensive came to work on her fear of angry people. And she was sharing that this morning she was standing down on the dock, and that all of a sudden there was this person, and it's not somebody from the intensive, it's not somebody that lives next door. So where this person came from, I don't know. But they were standing on the dock behind her on a telephone conversation and were so angry, and they were screaming and carrying on. And she said it just hit her like, how do I resonate? Out of all of the places this person could have gone to make a phone call, they were right behind her screaming at somebody. And it didn't even involve her. And she came in the kitchen and she was totally shaking. She said, she said, I'm so nervous and anxious, I can't even do a worksheet on this yet. And so, but she saw so totally clearly how, this incident didn't even involve her. I mean, the person wasn't yelling at her or anything, but how that out of all the places they could have gone, they came right to her to throw this fit, right behind her in her space. And so she was just like, I have got to clear this up, so I quit drawing these angry people into my life. And so that's a perfect example of that. So she definitely, took responsibility that they weren't doing it to her, that she drew them in to show her next stage. And so that was awesome to be able to see that.
A question, Jeannie. I wasn't over there at this point. Did anybody else see this person?
Oh, that I don't know. She said she was out on the dock. I think she was meditating or something. And I said, was it somebody from the intensive? I said, if it is, let's do a responsibility communication, and get them to, own up to that kind of behavior is not appropriate. And she said, no, it's somebody I have never seen before. She said, so they're not, it wasn't the person that owns the property. It wasn't anybody in the intensive. And there's not like a bunch of houses around here, so where they came from, I don't know. But
well, what I'm wondering, sweetie, and I'd love to find out if anybody else saw this person, if that person was even there. Or if she was so ready to deal with this issue that there was in her brain a manifestation. I just wonder, because we're a pretty isolated place here. I don't know how or where anybody would even get onto the dock we're at here that isn't part of our workshop, or at least part of the property next door. I don't even know how they get there, but anyway, it would just be kind of fun and interesting to check that out.
Yeah, we'll ask when we go back into class. And we do have a caller. We're down to about 2 minutes, but area code 970, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Hey, it's Carrie again, Michael and Jeannie. I just had a flash as you were talking the last few minutes. Something really interesting happened to me this weekend before my visitors came. A really strong wind came from the south in the last hour and blew a window out in my house. And I heard this glass shattering from a distance. And I thought, wow, what in me caused that to happen? And it was a window that was missing a few pieces, so it managed this just really strong wind all of a sudden showed up and knocked it out of there. And by the end of the weekend, the knowledge that I had a few different ideas about what that broken glass meant, and I got it cleaned up right before they got here. But by the end of the weekend, I realized it doesn't matter what we think about anything. It's pretty much all made up, unless it's just based in pure love. And it was, and I felt like that window shattered to help me realize that.
Cool. Well, and it may be symbolic of another veil in you that's just cracking and breaking loose. So we hold the space for that. We acknowledge you for the work you're doing, appreciate you, and we're down to just a few seconds. So I'm going to close out and say thank you, everybody, for being part of this process. You're an awesome community, and we're blessed by you. We hold the space for you to create the best year yet of your eternal life. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.